How to Become Wealth in Real Life. By Jim Rohn. Wealth is the possession of great financial resources that improve the quality of your life and give you added dignity and an expanded lifestyle. What you do with what you have is more important than what you have. It's hard to get rich fast. It's easy to get rich slowly. Disciplines are those ingenious keys that unlock the door to the kind of person we really want to become. And in becoming that person, we attract all those treasures and values that most people would call the good life. A life abundant. Wealth is a word that conjures a wide variety of mental images, and that is part of my purpose in this book, to provoke that wide variety of mental images. 4. That is where the dreams are, where inspiration comes from, where true incentive is born. To one person, wealth means having enough financial substance to be able to do whatever you wish with your life. To another, it may mean freedom from debt, freedom from the constant claim of obligation. To yet another, it means opportunity. And to many, wealth means $1 million. Millionaire is a unique word. It rings of success, freedom, power, influence, pleasure, possibility, benevolence, and excitement. Not a bad mental image. We could talk about the wealth of experience, the wealth of friends, the wealth of love, the wealth of family, the wealth of culture, wealth of many kinds. But I'm going to focus on wealth in the sense of financial freedom. Wealth that comes from tremendous effort and enterprise and gets translated into currency and equity. For each of us, the amount of money required to be wealthy will differ, but the dream for all of us, I'm sure, is the same: freedom from financial pressure, more freedom of choice, freedom to enjoy our lives, and the opportunity to create and to share our wealth. Above all, wealth represents the possession of great financial resources that improve the quality of your life and give you added dignity and an expanded lifestyle. So decide for yourself what wealth means to you. Latch on to your own mental image of wealth and see if the ideas I'm about to tell you about will make sense. I can only hope that they will provide you with the inspiration to put your plan into high gear. Once you do, will you soon enjoy a growing sense of freedom, dignity, self-worth, substance, and lifestyle? Your wealth philosophy. Your economic future is not going to be determined by the economy, but rather your own philosophy. I had one woman chastise me severely. She said, "Mr. Rohn, you can't promise young people they can become wealthy and financially independent. It's just not in the cards these days. It takes everything a person makes just to keep his or her head above water and the wolf away from the door." I said, "No, that's not true." She said, "It is true. You can't offer hope to all the people who listen to you, telling them they can become financially independent, especially children. They'll be sadly disillusioned. It's not in the cards these days." I said, "Gosh, I wish I could persuade you otherwise." So I decided to use this illustration. I asked her, "Can you think of a couple right now who makes $5,000 a month?" She said, "Yes, if I think really hard, I could come up with a couple who makes $5,000 a month." I said, "What would they tell you it takes just to keep their head above water and the wolf away from the door?" She replied, "They would probably say, all of it. It takes $5,000 a month." I said, "Could you think of a couple that makes $500 more than that a month?" She said, "Yes, if I thought for a while, I could probably come up with a couple that makes that much money." I said, "What would they tell you it takes just to keep their nose above water and the wolf away from the door?" She replied, "They'd say, all of it." I said, now if it takes all of it, how do you account for this extra $500? Here's what happens. There are errors in judgment when it comes to economic philosophy. Many people think it's the economy, but it's the philosophy. And if the second couple saved their extra $500 and lived like the first couple on $5,000, that $500 a month invested over the next 15 years would make them financially independent. The difference is not your paycheck. The difference is your philosophy. Leaving a profit. The whole world benefits if we all leave more profit, touch something and leave it better than you found it. I talked to a man who rents a lot of apartments. He said, Mr. Rohn, you wouldn't believe it. When most people leave the apartment, it's trashed. What a reputation to leave, that everything you touch gets dirty. You've got to turn that around. Train yourself to leave a profit instead. A friend of mine has made money on every car he's bought. Why? Because when he sells them, they're in better condition than when he acquires them. The key for parents is to touch a life and leave it better than you found it. The key for leaders is to touch a business and leave it better than you found it. The key for employees is to touch a job and leave it better than you found it. Leave a profit. What a world this would be if everybody tried to leave it in better condition than they found it. The 3 attitudes of wealth. Years ago, when I made the decision to turn my economic life around, I had to develop a new attitude as well as new concepts. Here's what I used to say: I hate to pay my taxes. Mr. Schoaf said, well, that's one way to live. I countered, doesn't everybody hate to pay their taxes? He said, no. No. Few of us have gotten way past that once we understood what taxes are. Here's the purpose of taxes in our democratic society. Taxes are how you care for and feed the goose that lays the golden eggs. Wouldn't you want to feed the goose that lays the golden eggs? How do you feel about feeding the goose? You may think the goose eats too much. That's probably true. But better a fat goose than no goose at all. And the truth is, we all eat too much. Don't let one appetite accuse another. Of course, the government needs to go on a diet. So do most of us. But you still have to care for and feed the goose that lays the golden eggs. The right attitude is so important. Here's what I used to say: I hate to pay my bills. I bring in the mail, and there's nothing but these window envelopes. Bills. Bills, bills. Mr. Schoaf said, well, that's one way to live. I said, doesn't everybody hate to pay their bills? He said, no, some of us are way beyond that. I said, is it possible to love to pay your bills? He said, yes. Reduce your liability and increase your assets. Wouldn't you love to do that? You can start by adopting a whole new attitude. The next time you pay $100 on an account, put a little note in there that says, with great delight, I send you this $100. Billing agencies don't get many letters like that. What a great scenario: reduce your liabilities and increase your assets. Your financial picture is improving. You can learn to love to pay your bills. Think of it as keeping the money in circulation. Think of paying your taxes as feeding the goose that lays the golden eggs. It's all a matter of attitude. Here's the last attitude you need to adopt regarding wealth: everybody must pay.
Of course, life is opportunity, but life is also price. We all must pay, We all must share. One of the classic biblical stories of all time describes a fascinating scenario. Here's my interpretation of that story. One day, Jesus and his disciples were standing by the synagogue treasury watching people as they came by with their offerings. Some people came by and put in big amounts. Others came by and put in modest amounts. Then a little lady comes by and puts 2 pennies in the treasury. Jesus said to his disciples, "Look at that." His disciples responded, "2 pennies? What's the big deal?" Jesus said, "No, you don't understand. She gave more than everybody else." They said, "2 pennies is more than everybody else?" He said, "Yes. Because I'm certain that her 2 pennies represent most of what she has. And if you give most of what you have, then you've given the most." What a lesson to learn. It's not the amount, it's what it represents that counts. There's a wisdom conveyed by what does not happen in this story also. Jesus did not reach into the treasury for this little lady's 2 pennies. He did not run after her and say, "Excuse me. My disciples and I decided that you're so pitiful and poor that we're giving you back your 2 pennies. I'm telling you, that did not happen. If that had occurred, it would have been highly insulting. She would have rightfully said, I know my 2 pennies aren't much, but they represent most of what I have. And you insult me by not letting me contribute what I want to contribute, even if it's only 2 pennies. She knew, just as Jesus knew, that everybody has to pay, even if it's only pennies. And whether you start with pennies or dollars or nothing at all. Remember the 3 attitudes of wealth. Once you begin thinking this way, you're free to create a splendid economic philosophy that will get you up early and keep you up late. It will get you thinking about ways to use your resources to realize your dreams for the future. That's what the road to financial independence is all about. A worthy and legitimate ambition. At some point in life, everybody has to wrestle with their own financial ambition, whether we call it financial independence or becoming wealthy. I know some people are a little uncomfortable with those kinds of phrases, and I can understand that. We've all heard the saying, money is the root of all evil. Well, I believe that the love of money is certainly evil, but money itself is not evil. There is an evil way to acquire money, greed. And there is a difference between greed and ambition. Contrary to the movie Wall Street, greed is not good. Greed is associated with getting something for nothing. Greed means hoping for more than your share. Greed leads to getting something at the expense of others. We call that evil. Greed is not good. Here's what is good: ambition, legitimate ambition. Legitimate ambition says, I only want something at the service of others. Not the expense of others, but at the service of others. Jesus gave us the greatest scenario for success when he explained that if you wish to be the greatest, you must find a way to serve the most. To many, service is the path that leads to greatness. Of course, many people forget this aspect of service in their quest for greatness. The greed for absolute power drove Joseph Stalin to kill 30 million of his own countrymen. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Stalin is one of the best examples of the pursuit of power at the expense of others, not at the service of others. To be the greatest is a worthy ambition only if it's pursued with the goal of serving many. Serving many leads to great wealth. Serving many leads to great recognition. Serving many leads to great satisfaction. Zig Ziglar probably said it as well as anybody, if you help enough people get What they want, you can have everything you want. That's not greed. It's legitimate ambition at the service of others. But even in this context, some people feel ambivalent about their ambition toward wealth. They are a little disturbed by the self-serving nature of seeking their fortune. So I try to refer to this endeavor as a quest for financial independence. Here's my definition of financial independence: it's the ability to live solely from the income of your own personal resources. It's a worthy and legitimate ambition to render good service, to develop good skills in the marketplace, to become so valuable that you can live independently off of the income of your own personal resources. You're not placing the burden on others to support you. And you have the ability and desire to support others because you know you could never have made it alone. That's why I think financial independence is such a worthy ambition.
What you do with what you have. Let me recommend a book for you to read, The Richest Man in Babylon, by George Clason. Perhaps you've already read it. Read it again. It's just a small book, you can read it in one evening. I call it the appetizer for the full discourse on the subject of financial independence. The major theme of this book is that what you do with what you have is more important than what you have. What you do with what you get is more important than what you get. What we do with what we have says so much about us. It reveals our philosophy of life, our attitude, what we know and what we think, and the makeup of our character. It is a reflection of our thoughts and our value systems. It also reveals our abilities to weigh and perceive. The outer is always a reflection of the inner. Remember, everything is symptomatic of something. It is a wise policy to pay attention to symptoms, for they can be the early signs of a poor choice of philosophy or a signal that something important is being misread, misunderstood, miscalculated. Let me give you some of the details of a good financial plan as suggested by Clason's book. First, you need to learn to live on 70% of your net income, net meaning the money you have left over after paying your taxes. The reason it's 70% is because you're going to be doing some very special things with the remaining 30%. So let's talk about how you allocate that 30%. I remember one day saying to Mr. Schoaf, if I had more money, I would have a better plan. He said to me, Mr. Rohn, would suggest that if you had a better plan, you would have more money. It's not the amount that counts, it's the plan. It's not what you allocate, it's how you allocate. Here's the first part of the allocation process. Of the 30% you're not spending, 10% should go to charity. You should give part of what you have to help those who cannot help themselves. I think 10% is a good figure, but of course you can pick your own percentage. It's your life and your plan. Giving your money to a church or an institution is a good idea, because, more often than not, they can find the people who are in need. But whether you administer the distribution yourself or leave that up to an institution, 10% should be given to charity. And by the way, the best time to teach this allocation process to your kids is when they earn their first dollar. Take your children on a visual tour. Take them to a place where some very unfortunate people live. Kids have big hearts. If they see the problem, they won't have any trouble giving a dime out of every dollar. The time to start this is when the amounts are small. It's pretty easy to give a dime out of a dollar. It's a little more difficult to give away $100,000 out of $1 million. You may say, oh, if I had $1 million, I'd give away 100,000. I'm not so sure. That's a lot of money. Best to start early, so you will learn the habit before the big money comes your way. Here's what to do with the next 10%, set it aside to manage as risk or venture capital. Do some buying and selling yourself. Buy something, fix it, and sell it. Engage in commerce, even if it's only a part-time venture. Your home is a major capital project. We should all engage in capitalism in this country. In the United States, we believe capital belongs in the hands of the people. Communism teaches that capital belongs in the hands of the state. That is a great difference in ideology. Communism seems to be based on the idea that humans are too stupid to know what to do with capital, so it should all be given to the state to manage. In our country, we believe the knowledge of what to do with capital resides in the populace. The people have the genius to come up with ideas for goods and services for the marketplace. This philosophy has built a dynamic enterprise known as capitalism and has created an abundance of opportunities. The third 10 cents from every dollar should go into a savings account. I prefer to call it an investment account because, and kids will love this, institutions pay you for the use of your money. You can get back the money you loaned plus a profit from what you are paid for the use of your money. If kids start this program beginning with whatever they earn from employment or enterprise, by the time they are 40 they will be wealthy enough to be able to do what they want to do with the rest of their lives instead of what they have to do. A 10-year-old takes $1 and searches around the community. He finds a broken, abandoned wagon and pays $1 for it. He brings it home, cleans it up, sands off the rust, paints it until it's shiny and new, straightens out the wheels, and sells the like-new wagon for $11. Does a 10-year-old deserve a $10 profit? Of course. Society now has a mended wagon. That's what it's all about. Find something and leave it better than you found it. Create a value. Build an equity. That's how we should live in this most dynamic society called America. And everyone can contribute, everyone can bring some value to the marketplace. We can all be students of capital, profit, equity, and value. We can all engage in free enterprise. We can all adopt behavior that brings wealth of lifestyle and treasure. Along with our children, we can build the most powerful and attractive society ever. We have the knowledge, the tools, the schools, the market, the resources, the will. Let each of us begin. The riches are there for the taking. Planning your financial future. A man I know has an MBA from Harvard and an engineering degree from MIT. He's a smart guy. He's semi-retired now and doing what he likes best. Teaching college courses in economics and business planning. But when he teaches economics, he also teaches personal economics. This is the philosophy that he starts his classes with: decide how you want to live now, versus how long you want to work. This means that if you spend everything you make now, you'll have no choice but to work longer and harder. But if you start investing in your financial future now, you'll have many choices. You can retire early, travel more, continue your career, or start a new career later in life. Once again, it all comes down to choices. Think tomorrow today, and live better tomorrow. Here's the next thing to think of when you're planning your economic future: be careful with your credit cards. Selling money is big business. You probably get invitations in the mail to sign up for a new credit card a couple of times a month. Having some credit cards is important, especially if you travel. They're safer. And easier to track than cash. But be careful. I know that's hard. When you buy something with a little piece of plastic, you don't feel the effect until you get the bill. So make sure that whatever you buy, you're still happy with your purchase after you get the bill. Credit is the easiest way to get into debt. Go into debt strategically, not habitually. If your business is high risk, if you're an entrepreneur whose career requires a great deal of risk and a great deal of strategic debt, keep the debt in your business and out of your personal life. I know this one's hard, too, because for most entrepreneurs looking for capital, the lender requires that you guarantee the loan personally. So plan your debt, just as you plan your fortune.
Here's another point to remember in becoming financially independent: it's hard to get rich quickly. It's easy to get rich slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. With conservative investments, it takes a while. It takes discipline to keep adding value to your future, a little every month. It takes time to build your fortune and create your financial independence. There's a saying about investing: time, not timing. It takes time. If playing the stock market is what you do, then you know that timing is a whole different ball game. But for the average person, it's time. A study was done a while back that analyzed stock market investments. The study took two scenarios into consideration. In the first scenario, stocks were bought at the very worst possible time and sold at the very worst possible time. Bought high and sold low. And after 40 years, the average return was around 10%. Scenario 1 dealt with time. In the second scenario, stocks were analyzed over a 10-year period. Stocks were purchased at the best possible time and sold at the best possible time. After 10 years, the average return was around 10%. The second scenario dealt with timing. So timing may not be all it's cracked up to be. Be patient in building your financial independence. It will come small steps at a time. It's hard to be patient sometimes, but it's just like achieving your goals. It happens one step at a time. What about those situations when patience has nothing to do with building financial independence? What about those trust fund babies who are handed their financial independence on a silver platter? They never have to work a day in their lives, if that's what they choose. Their first car is a Porsche. Their first house is a mansion. Their first job is at daddy's company. What about those people born rich? Some guy says, "It isn't fair that I'm working like crazy all day, all week, all month, all my life. It just isn't fair. I'll never have that kind of money." Well, some things aren't fair. Inheriting money may not seem to be fair. But what does that have to do with you? Really? If your dream is to have greater financial independence than some people you know, then you'd better start working harder and smarter on your own goals, your own visions, and stop pondering what's fair and what isn't. Start examining what's keeping you back instead of what's keeping them ahead. Start looking at what you're doing. There are plenty of stories and examples and experiences of people who began their careers destitute and had enough resolve to do it until they had more than they ever dreamed of. Study the experiences of others who built their way to the top instead of those born there. And you'll not only reach the top, you'll truly deserve it. Reaching your objective. I've come up with what I think is the major role of grandparents in our country. The major role of grandparents in this country should be to teach their grandchildren how to be wealthy, cultured, and happy. Grandparents should not have to say, "I've worked all my life, Now I need help. They should be able to say, I've worked all my life, now I can help. If you are not financially independent by the age of 50, it doesn't mean you live in the wrong country. It doesn't mean you live in the wrong community. It doesn't mean you live at the wrong time. It doesn't mean you are the wrong person. It simply means you have the wrong plan. I've discovered that you can be a nice person with the wrong plan. You can be a sincere person with a poor plan. And remember, it's not uncommon. Everything tends to get off course over time. When astronauts make a moonshot, they don't stay on course throughout the whole trip. They have what are known as mid-course corrections, those fine-tuned changes that set you on a straighter course. And on the way to a destination as far as the moon, these slight changes are so important. If there's one target you don't want to miss, it's the moon. If you will make wealth and financial freedom that important a need, you will have the best opportunity to arrive. And here is the first step you need to take. Put together a financial statement. When I talked about financial independence with Mr. Schoaf, he asked me if I had a current financial statement. I said, "What is a financial statement?" That's when I got my primary education in making a financial plan. Mr. Schoaf explained that it is very important to know exactly where you are, without kidding yourself, so you can then come up with a good plan for going from where you are to where you want to be. It turned out to be fairly easy to put one together. You merely list the value of your assets on one side of a piece of paper and the total of what you owe, your liabilities, on the other side of the paper. Then, by subtracting one from the other, you come up with your current net worth. It doesn't tell you what you are worth as a person, but rather what you are worth financially. I said to Mr. Schoaf, "My financial statement isn't going to look that good." He said, "It is not important how good it looks. What is important is that you do it." So I put that first financial statement together. I had plenty of liabilities, money I owed my parents, loan payments to institutions, and all kinds of other debts. On the asset side, I really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel. I even put my shoes on the asset side. They were worth something. How embarrassing that. After 6 years of working, I had to list my shoes as equity. Of course, you don't have to put the results on a public bulletin board, but it is vitally important that you know how you're doing. Here are some other points. First, keep excellent books, not only for tax purposes, but for yourself, your financial future, and for your own sense of self-worth. Have you ever heard the expression, "I don't know where it all goes"? Well, from now on, make a new commitment to financial independence and to the value that comes from knowing where it all goes and where it all comes from. It is just one of those important disciplines that can help you prove to yourself that you are on a new road, walking in a new direction, becoming a new person, and arriving at a new destination. Without that effort, you will keep falling back. I found out that you can make $5,000 a month and still go broke. You say, how could you go broke making $5,000 a month? It's easy, spend $6,000. And when you make $5,000, spending $6,000 is not that difficult. Someone once said, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall.
So be the master over whatever you have and whatever you are. That's where the seeds of greatness are sown: great wealth, great health, great results, great influence, and a great lifestyle. Take interest and even delight in doing all the small things well. It makes you a sophisticated person to know where the source of wealth and happiness is. Surely life is reluctant to hand a fortune to someone who constantly misuses his paycheck. It's not the amount that counts. It's the plan and the faithful application of that plan that counts. It's those ingenious keys that unlock the door to the kind of person we really want to become. And in becoming that person, you attract all those treasures and values that most people would call the good life. An abundant life, a productive life, an enterprising life, an influential life, a stylish life, that's the good life. Enriching your life. An enriching lifestyle is a matter of awareness, values, education, and disciplined taste. It is an art that brings joy as it is practiced. It's not just a subject to be studied. It is the deliberate decision to savor and enjoy all the experiences and possibilities of life. Having an enriching lifestyle means expanding your knowledge and experience with books, people, films, and new adventures. So appreciate everything and everyone with whom you come in contact. You can begin expanding your lifestyle today. Think of something you can do today to make yourself feel richer and better about your life. Make a phone call, reserve tickets to a concert, send flowers. Write a thank you note, plan a trip of new discovery, or begin to read a classic. I'd bet that within 50 miles of where you are right now there are some places you have never seen, some foods you have never tasted, some experiences you have never had. I grew up in Idaho, and I've never been to Yellowstone Park. And part of it is in Idaho. Thousands of people from all over the world have traveled to Yellowstone. Doesn't everyone know about Old Faithful? I've been to Africa, but not to Yellowstone. Isn't it easy to miss something? Isn't it often easier not to do something, see something, or experience something? Let's all set a new goal not to miss anything, especially the things within our reach. Remember, all good things take effort, a conscious act from a unique thought. The act serves as a bridge between dreams and reality. So improve your lifestyle, your style of seeing, giving, sharing, enjoying, bit by bit. It's not the amount that counts, but the experience of choosing to live with style. I remember once saying to Mr. Schoaf, if I had more money, I would be happy. And he gave me some of the best words of wisdom when he said to me, Mr. Rohn, the key to happiness is not more. Happiness is an art to be studied and practiced. More money will only make you more of what you already are and send you more quickly to your destination. He continued, if you are inclined to be unhappy, you will be absolutely miserable if you get a lot of money. If you are inclined to be mean, you will be a terror if you get a lot of money. If you are inclined to drink a little too much, you will be a drunk when you get a lot of money. More money will only make you more. But the good news is that more money will amplify your happiness if you are inclined to be happy. Style is not more. Style is an art, a genius, a design. Lifestyle is reserved for those who are willing to study and practice the higher arts of life. Lifestyle is culture, music, dance, art, sculpture, literature, plays, and concerts. Lifestyle is a taste of the fine, the better, the best. The philosopher Mortimer Adler once said that if we don't go for the finer tastes, we will settle for the mediocre ones. So develop an appreciation for the finer things in life. That is a worthy purpose, developing an appetite for the unique things in life. Remember, it's not the amount, it's the quality. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like the content.